Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Respawn Lounge, where we're going to be talking about Mother, Lisa, and Undertale. So what's interesting about Lisa and Undertale to me is that they represent the two different, evolutionary paths that Earthbound could have undertaken.
Which are very, very different.
Yeah, because you can see a lot of Earthbound in both of those games. But those games, when you compare them directly to each other, are radically different. So, Earthbound is a 1994 SNES RPG, more Dragon Quest-like than, a lot of people seem to realize, I think. Mostly because Dragon Quest just isn't popular in America for people to draw that comparison. But you play in a first-person, turn-based perspective, and you'll play as ultimately 4 children fighting against rabid dogs and clowns, and ultimately ethereal beings trying to overtake the universe. And a lot of the elements of the game are based on kind of the suburban American lifestyle. So instead of healing with potions, you heal with pizza or coffee and butterflies. And yeah, there's magic, but it's psychic magic. It's not really called magic for the sake of the game, and
Yeah.
I don't think the points used to cast magic, they're not called MP, they're called PP, psi points or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
PP.
go ahead.
No, I'm just making a dumb joke.
Okay. Kicking you off. So, the two other games we're talking about, and I said Mother, but I've actually played Mother 3, but it's been a really long time. Earthbound is the game that's really the most, historically significant of the three.
Well, for the longest time, it was also the only one from the Mother trilogy that was in America.
Yeah, and there's a big grassroots effort. Well, Mother 3's been localized for a long time, but there's been a good grassroots effort to get it officially localized, to the point that the team that actually localized it created a guidebook and sent their translation materials to Nintendo and just said, just release it. Don't compensate us or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is really awesome of them. And I think you can still buy that physical guide, which, is paired with the translation patch, so, all the names make sense and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the point being that Earthbound is the, until, I think, a year or two ago, the only one of the Mother series released in the U.S.
Yes.
Because Earthbound Beginnings, which was Mother 1, was released on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Yeah, 26 years after its release in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah. And Mother 1...
Great time frame.
It's really significant, but it feels closer to a rough draft for Earthbound than
Absolutely.
It feels like it being its own game.
Yeah, especially because Ness and then Nintendo, who was the protagonist of the first game, looked so similar, but Nintendo has a little ascot or something, a cute little bandana.
Yeah, the plots are, really, really similar.
Mm-hmm.
But Earthbound's definitely the one that's picked up the most recognition in the U.S.
Yeah.
And you really see the direct inspiration, specifically in Undertale. Toby Fox, cited Earthbound specifically as his inspiration for it.
Well, too, one of the first games that Toby had ever really made was a Halloween hack for Earthbound.
Yeah.
So it was the first significant piece, and it's also where Megalovania shows up for the first time. The song that plays when you fight Sans, not the other song, which is titled "The Song You Play When You Fight Sans."
Yeah,
which
and
it's not the song that plays then.
Which is actually not in the game at all. It's only on the CD.
And some more fun backstory, because Undertale is just a fun game to talk about the history of. Megalovania is based on the song Megalovania, which is the boss theme from the SNES game Live a Live, which was a Square Enix RPG that never came out in the US, but it's also very a subversive RPG that's really interesting. We can go into more detail about that later when we get to Earthbound, or when we get to Undertale, I mean. But Undertale takes all of the kind of cutesy modern life elements from Earthbound. Go ahead.
Oh, I feel like Undertale and Lisa really took two very different, the two things that make Earthbound what Earthbound is, which is both kind of the cutesy friend sort of aspects of it, and then also the fact, I guess, the horror that comes from kind of understanding that these are kids fighting against monsters, and especially Gygas at the end of the game, who was, allegedly based on, like, an aborted fetus. Like, all the nasty horror sort of stuff that's really in Earthbound. Undertale definitely took a lot more of the friend stuff, but it does also have its pretty gnarly moments. Yeah. Whereas Lisa very, very much takes from the nasty, kind of seedy underside of Earthbound.
Yeah, Lisa takes the gameplay inspiration, and Undertale takes the thematic inspiration.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're both very weird games. Well, all three of them are.
Yeah. One of them significantly worse than the other two. I have... Actually, of these, the only one I haven't beaten yet is Earthbound. I'm still working on it. But I've been familiar with it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Earthbound is... There's a lot of, like, JRPG history involved with Earthbound that's really interesting to me. Like I said, it's a Dragon Quest-inspired game. Plays pretty close to identically to the early Dragon Quest games, save for, like, changing jobs and things like that. But the battle perspective is basically the same. The, like, party format is basically the same. The way you encounter enemies, it's all very similar. Earthbound does a lot of interesting things with, like, having different music, having, like, a very wide pool of, like, potential battle music you can encounter based on the enemy you're up against. And it has several songs that are sampled from, like, famous U.S. artists.
Yeah, which is why both Earthbound and then also Earthbound Beginnings have had such a hard time being re-released in the U.S. is because copyright laws are so different between Japan and America.
Yeah, copyright's virtually non-existent in Japan.
Yeah, whereas in America, their license is expired or lapsed in between Earthbound's original release and then when we wanted Earthbound to come to Virtual Console. So they had to go back and try to get all those licenses again to have the music in because, like, music is such a crucial part to Earthbound that you can't not play the game with the original music, even though it is kind of stolen. Or
no, it's totally stolen.
It's stolen, sampled. It depends on who you talk to, kind of what the differences between the two are.
Well, the town theme, I don't remember which town it is like very blatantly Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
I don't remember which town. I think it's I want to say Eagle Town sounds right, but it's probably not it.
But then there's another one that's a Who song, and I can't remember which one exactly. But the one that's most notorious because it's so close to the beginning is when you fight Frankie. The battle theme that plays is Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry.
Yeah. Which
also, timely, rest in peace, Chuck Berry. I love Chuck Berry.
Mm-hmm.
He did a whole bunch for rock and roll, and I'm very happy to have existed at the same time as him.
Yeah. I'm also trying to remember, I think Louie Louie was another song that was heavily sampled.
Yeah.
Throughout the game. But the music is such an important part to Undertale. Or, not Undertale. I mean, yes, Undertale, but Earthbound.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is, like, really important, like, thematic, kind of rock music from the time. Because Earthbound takes place in not America. So the music is really, really important because it's supposed to be that sense of, like, childhood and everything. Like, everybody has those songs they listened to when they were kids that were, like, kind of one of your parents' songs almost, like, from their generation. But it was, like, really, really important to you because it was something that, you shared with, like, an older person in your family, or, like, it was, like, a song that you had, like, on a CD that you played on your busted CD player when you were, like, playing out in the front yard or something like that. Like, we have, like, very specific nostalgic memories that the music in Earthbound really, like, helps to tap into. Like, you might not have the same memories with, Louie Louie or Johnny Be Good specifically, but it's that kind of idea of, like, you recognize that that's older music.
Yeah,
so it brings you back to that time.
Kind of idea, which is very present in the themes of Earthbound. Like, one of the more interesting gameplay elements is the fact that you save by, like, going to a payphone and calling your dad. but your father never actually appears in the game, which is the assumption is that's based on the director Shigesato Itoi. The fact that like his dad was a salaryman who just like wasn't around very often, but tried to be supportive anyway. Because when you do call your dad in Earthbound, he's really nice and really supportive of you. He says things like, "Oh, you should take a break" or whatever. And if you say like, "No, I need to continue on," he's like, "I don't like it, but I guess saving the world is a good reason."
Yeah, he always says like, you work yourself too hard, just like your mother, that sort of thing. And he also is how you get money from fights. When you call your dad, he deposited the money in your bank account.
Yeah.
So instead of you just finding quarters that these rabid dogs, when you punch it hard enough, this dog just leaves quarters.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense in that way that your dad like is depositing stuff, and it's never really like directly implied that correlation, but it's pretty obvious that like you go fight shit, your dad gives you money.
Yeah, it's just a way to it's a way to like draw some degree of realism from that.
Yeah.
But my favorite part is that when you fight stuff with Jeff, when you're just on your own with Jeff, Ness's his dad still gives you money.
Yeah.
Because he's, I guess, also Jeff's dad.
It's fine. Look.
Another element is that Ness will get homesick, like, as a status debuff. If you don't, like, actually go back to your home or, like, call your mother to, like, check in and whatnot, he'll, like, lose his motivation to fight and just, like, not take an action sometimes.
It's, the first time I played Earthbound and got a significant amount of the way through was the first time that I had actually lived away from home. I was about 13 hours away from home, whereas before I was only about 20 minutes. And so the first time that Ness got homesickness, it just, like, really hit me, and I had to go call my mom, too. Just because that's not something that, like, I even expected to happen. Like, it totally makes sense, because he is, like, I don't think Ness's age is ever confirmed in-game, just because...
I'm pretty sure he's 12.
He's, yeah.
I've seemed to remember, like, that number coming up, having played it, like, in this past week.
Yeah, he's, I would say, like, 10 to 12, like, in that age range.
Definitely not a teenager.
Definitely not a teenager, but definitely also not, like, 5.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, like, for a kid that young to be going off on their own, to get homesick, and to, like, need to call their mom and stuff. And it was just, like, one of the really, like, poignant things that stuck with me from Earthbound. And one of the reasons why I like the game so much, even though I hate playing it.
Yeah, it's a game that, especially at the very beginning, is a deliberate exercise in monotony. It's really slow and it's like really boring. A lot of the like cool ideas, like your dad depositing money and whatnot, is in like practice just an extra barrier between you and like the thing you earn. But that's also interesting because that means while you're out in the field earning money, it's not going directly into your inventory. Because like Dragon Quest, when you get KO'd, your party gets wiped out, you lose a lot of the money on hand, if not all of it. So what they're doing is making it so the money you earn is safe until you're out of the field and out of danger.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a cool idea, but it's also
nice.
like a little bit like tedious. Especially because you can't just go like freely like take it from anywhere. You have to like find an ATM, and they're like pretty usually in the stores. Like if you go to a convenience store, there's going to be an ATM there. So like the money's where you need it to be.
And there's also an ATM in like most hotels as well. That sort of thing. Like the ATMs are always where you would expect to be spending money, because you also just don't find shops out in the open.
Except hospitals, which is annoying, and I've forgotten that a few times.
Yeah, but the thing is, you just get good, and then you don't ever need to use a hospital.
Or you play and you run out of MP halfway through a dungeon, and then you die on purpose because it's more convenient than going back.
Nice.
Yeah, Earthbound has not aged super well when it comes to gameplay, just because there are just so many more RPGs that I've played, even recently, but also just even before I really like sat down and played Earthbound, that have just handled things much better. Have also been a lot nicer. Earthbound does not want to be your friend. Well, because when Paula enters your party, she's the first like party member you get after Ness.
But that's also not until the end of the second town.
Yeah, you have to go through a whole town, fight a shit ton of like bosses to get there, all this stuff.
And it's very easy to just get unlucky. Like, a boss hits a critical and there's nothing you can do to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Paula starts on... She's level 1 when you get her. So she's weak as hell and she dies all the time. And Earthbound, I guess to try to balance it, the way that it does health is it's kind of like an odometer. And if you can quickly get a healing item in or get, like, some of that healing psychic energy in before the odometer hits 0 when it comes to health, you can stop it and you can save yourself. But also, when it's you against 3 enemies, the likelihood of you being able to get in, like, a hamburger or something before that hits 0, if you've been hit by, like, enemy number 1 out of 3, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, like, just the time it takes for your actions to, like, play the sound effect and actually kick in. I'm like, Nessus level 28 in my game at the moment, and I haven't had an opportunity to, like, actually interrupt the countdown at all.
I have once, and it was really cool, but then I, like, died immediately afterwards because it also isn't very clear with like turn order. So it was like an enemy hit Ness and then Ness was next in line, so I was having him heal anyway, so just his healing kicked in, but then the next 2 enemies, like, hit me harder and it just kind of canceled out. But it was really cool for that, like, 2 seconds where I was like, holy shit, I didn't die, like, this is awesome.
Yeah, originally, the creator, Shigesato Itoi, wanted that to be a pachinko machine.
Excellent.
And there's just no way. It just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And that would have also, like, been problematic in the US, like, just not really knowing what pachinko is, especially in 1994.
I still don't know what pachinko is.
You've probably played it before.
Isn't it, like, kind of like slots, sort of?
You're just like...
No? Okay,
it's closer to
idea.
pinball. It's like rapid fire pinball.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You just, like, drop stuff from the top and then it, like, lands somewhere.
Have you seen that thing where it's just, like,
so
pegs lined up and you drop a ball and, like, you try to get it into the right... Yeah, it's that, but, like, a shitload of balls at once.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's advanced Plinko.
Oh gosh.
It's gambling. It's slots that you, like, technically have control over, but, like...
Not really.
Yeah, well, it's legal in Japan because gambling is illegal in Japan.
Yeah, because it has to be skill-based, right?
Yeah, like, somebody went to court over it and, like, said, like, I'm going to drop a ball and I will get the number I say I will, and then he did. So,
amazing.
Like, technically it's skill-based, but no, totally not.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, this is getting really off topic, but that's why Konami is going into pachinko now and, like, being horrible to everyone else along the way, is because it's just, like, super-duper profitable.
Okay. Yeah. But also, like, I like to think I'm a pretty knowledgeable person. I had no idea that pachinko was the same thing as Plinko, which I'm sure that, like, half people listening to this won't know what the fuck Plinko is. So...
Yeah, so you have a pegboard, and then you stand it, like, upright, pretty much, and then you drop a ball down the pegs, and at the bottom there's, like, a bunch of different, like, little, like, holes or buckets that it can fall in, and you get, like, points based on, like, which one it falls in. So, like the middle one will be, like, 100 points, and, like, the various edges are, like, 20 points or something.
Yeah, and there'll usually be one, like, in the middle of the board, like, closer to the top or whatever, that's, like, harder to hit, but is worth more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you just drop it from the top, and it, like, lands across a bunch of different pegs, and, like, whichever one you get, that's what you get. And that has, that's very relevant to Undertale, I guess. Not really.
No.
This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Well, I mean...
I thought you were leading into something. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, I thought you were gonna, like, bust out this sudden, like, you know...
My deep pachinko Undertale knowledge.
Yeah, that, like, you know, there's a hidden scene where the fallen human, like, goes to a church festival and plays Plinko. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, are we gonna be spoilers friendly? No, I mean, Undertale's been out for long enough, I guess.
It's been a few years.
No, it's been a year and a little bit over that. Because it
Really?
came out
I think
September
I think it's
2015.
fine if we spoil it. Like, the steam behind it's, like, pretty much come to a close at this point.
Okay.
I get, yeah, if you don't want it spoiled, like, skip ahead, like, 10 minutes.
Maybe. I could talk about Undertale all day, forever. It's one of my favorite games, easily.
I'll leave a link in the description for the time code you can skip to.
Oh, look at you, Dan. Being nice.
Yeah, we'll see if you remember.
Yeah.
If I remember. If not, then just skip ahead 10 minutes. It'll be fine.
Just skip ahead 10 minutes, and if you just hear a word that kind of sounds like Undertale, skip 10 more minutes. But how is he gonna do the Plinko machine, or the pachinko for? How would that even work for Earthbound?
Yeah, that's why it didn't.
Yeah, I have no idea.
No, that didn't get like into the creative phase at all. It's just that they knew that they wanted an idea like that.
Yeah, Itoi is an interesting guy. He was, well, for the longest time, he was a celebrity in Japan because he was like an actor. He had done a couple things.
Well, more importantly, he was a slogan writer.
Yes.
Slogan writer?
Yeah, like I'm loving it. Like he used to write those kinds of things.
I think the one thing that a lot of people know him for outside of Earthbound is that he was the voice of the dad in the original release of My Neighbor Totoro.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the dad in the Japanese
Oh, wait,
version.
I did know that. Yeah, because we talked about that when I watched Totoro like a month ago.
Yeah, which is also why when he first went to pitch the idea for Mother 1 to Miyamoto and the rest of the, I guess, Nintendo higher-ups, he had kind of worked with them for a while because he was doing the slogan writing, but they rejected Mother because they had some, like, really, really bad luck with celebrity created games.
Which is kind of bizarre because the composer for this game and also the composer for several other games, I think Metroid and Kid Icarus is Hip Tanaka, who was a famous musician. But he'd also been partnered with Nintendo since, like, pretty much the, like, Famicom started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they, if I am remembering this correctly, Itoi was the person that Shigeru Miyamoto shut down so hard that Itoi cried on the train ride all the way home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it was
Miyamoto
bad.
was, like, really mean to him,
He was
actually.
nasty as hell. And then later he came back to it and was like, I don't know why I was such a jerk about this.
Yeah.
Because Earthbound is easily, like... It's so weird because Earthbound is kind of like Nintendo's, I guess, black sheep. Like, it's relatively well known, but it's kind of hidden enough to where most people feel like this really deep connection with it, but then they also feel like really cool because they know what the kid with the baseball hat from Smash, what he's from. They played his game or whatever. So it is kind of like straddling that really weird space of like Nintendo games, especially because Nintendo doesn't want to make another Mother game.
And they also can't, I'm pretty sure.
They can't?
Because Shigesato Itoi, as the scriptwriter, like, is technically the IP holder, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't want to make another game.
Yeah, or, like, it's either, like, they legally can't or they won't because Itoi won't work on it.
Yeah,
okay.
Itoi will not, because he thinks that where Mother 3 ended, and I'm not super familiar with Mother 3, but he thinks that...
It would be weird if they made a Mother 4.
Yeah, he thinks that where it ended is a really good place for it to end, and he's like, unfortunately, I just don't see another way for the series to move forward.
But there is a fan project that's creating, no longer called Mother 4, but it is Mother 4. They were calling it that, but, like, in light of the DMCAs Nintendo's been passing around lately, they decided to disassociate themselves from that name.
It's a spiritual successor now.
Yeah.
Instead of a successor.
Yeah. Now it's Father 1.
Father 1.
Brother.
It's Brother 1 and he plays Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Oh god, Hulk Hogan is wearing like Ness's outfit with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Good. I really want to imagine also that like the Ness's shirt is just a little too small. It's way too small actually. It's kind of a crop top on Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. It's way too small on Hulk
and
Hogan.
There's also no sleeves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things.
They've been ripped off.
Yes.
Instead of Smash when you get a critical, it just says Hulkamania.
Yeah.
And that's how Mother became racist.
Ugh. Well, I mean, Mother did also have the problems with the Happy Villagers. They had to add a pom-pom.
Oh yeah, being the KKK.
Yeah, because they were too similar to the KKK.
Yeah.
I forgot about
the
those.
Yeah, in Tucson, the cultists, the Happy cult or whatever.
Yeah.
They're totally the KKK but blue.
Yeah, and they had to, in the American release, add a little pom-pom to the end of the hats, so they were a little less KKK.
So they wouldn't be racist wizards.
Yeah.
Which would have been a much better name for them.
But also, like, I mean, Ness is also, like, punching them and beating the shit out of them. I mean, I definitely understand why we can't have the KKK in the game, but at least they weren't, like, they're cool. It's like, no,
Yeah.
they're horrible people, so Nessa's gonna go punch them.
Yeah.
It's also like, and especially in 1994, like this game wasn't really trying to be political.
No.
It kind of ended up political anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's definitely the scene where like Ness has to fight off 6 cops.
Yeah. Ness has to fight a bunch of cops so that they'll let him go to Tucson.
Yeah.
And he fights gang members all the time.
I mean, the implication is that they're like controlled by Gygas or whatever, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gygas is also like an aborted fetus, which is another like, the one other piece of information that every mother Earthbound fan knows is like the.
I don't know if it's aborted so much because there's a lot of like.
Or it's just a fetus. But
Yeah,
it's
like
based,
a lot of the like visual allegory is the idea of you like entering a womb.
but
like,
it's
Gygas is like the like, what's the name of that movie? The one with the monolith.
2001?
Yeah, 2001. It's totally like the space baby from the end of that.
kind of, but it's also inspired too by Itoi's like a traumatic experience he had as a child where he accidentally walked into the wrong movie theater and saw what he thought was a rape scene at the time, and it just fucked him up real good.
And then he fucked everyone else up real good.
Yeah, and then he went and then just ruined everybody forever. Because Mother starts in a very, like, weird sort of place where, Ness is woken up by a meteor crashing into his town, and he goes and, like, a little bit of alien stuff happens then, but for the most part, the beginning of the game is very much like you're just fighting dogs or snakes and crows and, like...
Ness is just going around beating up animals in the neighborhood.
Well, it's... One of the things that they say in the game is that, like, Gygas' influence has made them turn evil.
Yeah, and also when you, like, beat a dog in a fight, it doesn't say, like, you killed the dog. It's like the dog became tame.
Yeah, or, like, ran away or something. But, it starts out with him, like, fighting dogs, and then, like, the occasional person, because there's, like, the gang that's overrunning Onett.
Yeah, and they're all skater boys who said, "See you later, boy."
Yeah. He wasn't cool enough for them. But, it starts out there, and then it ends with, like, this weird, like, birth womb allegory, and just, like, all this weird shit happens along the way. So it takes a really, like, weird turn.
And it is a little bit, like, it progresses pretty naturally that direction, though. Because when you get to Threed, the creatures that you're fighting are, like, zombies.
Yeah.
And I think the final boss is, like, a sludge monster called, like, Mr. Belch or something.
Yeah. And I really like how the game introduces Jeff, too, where he wakes up, like, you leave Ness and Paula for a while, and you just go play as Jeff on his own. And Jeff is, like, he's a boy at, like, some boarding school up in the mountains or something. And I think he's woken up in the middle of the night and is told to go find Ness. So he's just like, yeah, sure, all right.
It's Paula, like, psycho communicating with him.
Yeah, because they're, like, stuck somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So then, but you just completely leave them and go play as this, like, new person who has this, like, and Jeff's pretty decently powered. Not like Paula when you get her where she's level 1, because you have to play as Jeff on his own to get to Ness and Paula. He does gain levels, so he's not completely useless when he joins your party. Because Paula died so many times, I was like, what's the point? All she does is, like, she would take 1 or 2 hits from Ness that he wouldn't take, but I almost never got her to, like, survive long enough to dole out damage for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's level 1, and by that point, I think Ness was like 7 or 8 or something.
He was actually 15 when I got Paula.
Okay.
But, like, the enemies you're fighting, like, if Paula can survive a battle, she'll gain, like, 6 levels.
Yeah.
So she catches up pretty quickly.
Yeah, but then
she'll probably always be behind Ness, like, assuming you keep them all, like, alive most of the time, just because he'll have more experience, but that'll even out as, like, the disparity between, like, experience necessary to level up gets greater.
Yeah, I just had really bad luck, and Paula would, like, almost get, like, she would get critical pretty much every time, which was great, because then that was a critical that Ness wasn't taking, but then also, like, fuck, I do go to the hospital and get Paula and everything.
Yeah, Earthbound, my biggest issue with it is that it, like, is highly, highly susceptible to just, like, the player being unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
RNG.
A lot of... pretty much all of the status effects, but, like, poison and like the similar ones to poison are like you might not attack or like you're more likely to miss, which is like yeah, like blind has been in like basically every turn-based RPG, but like there's like you also have homesick and the stupid little ghost thing that can like sometimes like paralyze you or whatever. There's just a lot of like and like the hit rates in general aren't very high. Like slingshots by default have like a 12.5% lower hit rate than everything else.
I feel like so much of the game, at least for me when I played it, like, yes, technically there's the random chance, and, like, the better item you have, the more chance you have to hit than you do to miss. But the game was so heavily, like, weighted against me that I missed all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you were over when I was playing it one time where, like, Ness missed with a slingshot, like, literally 8 times in a row.
Yeah, it's, which is why I said, like, you know, Earthbound is a really, really fun game. Like, I really like it thematically, storytelling-wise. I like a lot of the really cool stuff it does when it comes to, like, acquiring party members and, like, the places you go and the things that happen. But I hate playing Earthbound. It's just, there's just, it really is a product of its time, you know, in 1994. Like, I've just played so many more RPGs that I've liked and I felt have been a lot more fair to me as a player. Like, it's something that you really want to appreciate in the context of the time of its release. Like, it was unbelievably good compared to what else was out in 1994. I believe Final Fantasy IV had come out that year. Mm-hmm.
I think. I might be wrong about that. But one like the SNES Final Fantasies were like what that would be compared to.
Yeah.
No, that had to be 6 that was out in 94. Yeah. I'm pretty sure 6 was out or was coming out soon. Which is like what a lot of people consider to be like the apex of SNES RPGs, like that and Chrono Trigger. So Earthbound's competition was stiff. That being said, I still think Earthbound stands out as like probably one of the top 5 SNES RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that is its subversive nature and, you know, being a very, very unique game. But I'm really surprised it didn't inspire more games. Because you got to remember, too, that the SNES has, like, not only Final Fantasies, like, 4 through 6, and Chrono Trigger, and Illusion of Gaia, and Terranigma, and Soul Blazer. It also has a lot of games we didn't get in the US, like Dragon Quest III, which is an unbelievably good game. And I think despite all that, Earthbound, like, really has a ton of merit to stand on, just by the very fact that it didn't want to be other RPGs except Dragon Quest.
Yeah. Earthbound is definitely one of my favorites. I really like watching other people play through it because they always have better luck than I do when it comes to Earthbound. It just might be me, like, cursed or something. But it's, yeah, it very much does not want to be your friend. It does not hold your hand. It's, the RNG is very much, I feel, weighted against you.
The RNG is definitely the most critical flaw of that game, I think. But,
absolutely.
But I also think, like, I can't think of any games that have really been improved by criticals.
I can think of
a whole bunch that are made worse by criticals.
I think that, well, I really like what, this is totally off topic, but what Trails in the Sky does with criticals, where you can see them coming, so you know when you're getting a critical.
Yeah, like, you will never get a random critical in Trails in the Sky, and that's really nice.
It's just that RNG is not fun to deal with, because you will always be fucked over. You can have the best luck through most of the game, but the second that it turns against you, you're like, this game fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely, like, confirmation bias, but it's also, like, I firmly believe that no game, unless it's, like, thematically appropriate, like XCOM or something maybe, but even then it's kind of annoying, but there should always be a way to win a game.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think that in some games it's, like, really appropriate, because, like, unexpected things happen, and, like, it's about, like, you adjusting to that, like, sudden situation of, like, oh, my character has, like, way less health. Like, if, like, a crit happens, and you, like, lose the game instantly, that's unfun.
Yeah, and a lot of turn-based RPGs do suffer from stuff like that. Like, I've been playing the Steam version of Final Fantasy IV lately, which is a port of the DS version, and I've been in a lot of situations where, like, an enemy just like does an attack that like it's the first time I've seen this attack, or like gets a critical or something like that, and I get stuck in this endless loop of trying to like revive and then get instantly killed again over and over and over until I exhaust my entire supply of items and healing magic. And like, yeah, strictly that critical didn't kill me instantly, but it put me into such like a bafflingly unwinnable state that like I may as well just let my characters die. And Earthbound suffers with that pretty badly.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of times where like you'll be fighting a boss, and the boss, if you're at the like appropriate level, can like take more than half of Paula's health in one attack. And if he gets a critical, Paula just dies. And at that point, like if you're in like Threed, for example, I think there's only one revival item you could have found at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And if Paula goes down, like you pretty much can't win that fight. So like that fight can literally be determined on round 1 if the boss crits and kills Paula instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to spend a bunch of time walking back and fighting every other enemy to get there again.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
Because
and then you have to like spend money to revive her, which at that point like probably isn't a big deal, but it's also like more tedium.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm glad that Undertale didn't carry over, was criticals.
Yeah.
And also the fact that like you could, if you're really good, never ever take damage in Undertale.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that the bullet hell system kind of works.
Which I really liked. I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah, so now it's Undertale time.
Sure.
So now it's time for us to talk about Undertale for 8 billion years.
Now is this part where we
now
start
16
spoiling
minutes
Undertale.
after. Yeah,
Look.
maybe you should have skipped 10 minutes ahead earlier.
Look, just go back. There's no Undertale talk in the past 16 or so minutes.
Yeah, you can skip back and then get back to here. And
and then we'll tell you to skip
10
forward.
minutes.
But actually, we're going to talk about Lisa or something.
If you're actually worried, there will be descriptions of the duration of time for spoilers for Undertale in the description.
If you remember.
If I remember, which I will.
And if Dan doesn't remember and you get spoiled, yell at Dan.
Yeah, and then
not
I'll add
us. Yeah, and then Dan will add them.
And
Shame him into
then
doing
I'll
it.
tell you that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll send you a personal message. I'm very sorry.
Email us at respawnloungeofficial@gmail.com to have Dan send you a personalized "I'm sorry" message for spoiling Undertale.
Subject line: Dan spoiled Undertale.
Yeah, here's the first spoiler for you: Sansa's Nest.
Oh my god.
I'm not doing this.
No, but that's I mean, there is such like a huge like parallel between Undertale and Earthbound, at least thematically, but then also through Toby Fox's like past history.
And for what it's worth, that game theory wasn't actually that bad. Like, obviously it's tongue in cheek and like a lot of logic leaps, but like obviously there was a deliberate connection between the two games.
Yeah, very much so. But also like I love stupid game theories, and Undertale's the perfect place for them, just because there's a lot of stuff.
That's just the episode that gets quoted the most to like make people think game theory is stupid, and like think game theory is stupid for a better reason.
It's between that and then also game theory Link is dead, which is my favorite personal game theory, just because Link is dead in every game now, all of them. But that's another episode. Now Undertale, I think for the series or the season finale of last season, when we all talked about our favorite games, I think Undertale was the one game that all three of us kind of agreed on as one of our favorites. I know that I was the person who talked about it, at least a little bit, and I held off on a lot of stuff because I knew we were going to be talking about it at this point.
Hold up, did you just say Undertale is one of my favorite games?
Yeah?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
No, I can't even be contrarian. I really like Undertale.
It's so good.
You alright, Dan?
My stomach agrees, I guess.
We just ate Dan.
No, I don't know.
No, it's... Undertale is just so unique. At least, like, to me. At the time, I hadn't played a ton of, like, subversive games or just kind of games in general. Like, up until most of college, actually, I had really only played, like, Nintendo stuff, just because of, like, consoles and me being poor and, like, my computer's not really good, that sort of stuff. So Undertale was one of the other, like, first kind of indie games that I first followed for like a super long time. And then also, like, I have played all of the routes in Undertale. I know how to, like, manually go in and change all of the, like, save settings.
Nice.
Yeah, like, Undertale is one of the very few games that I've ever, like, kind of cracked open. Because I have done all the routes, and I don't want any of that to bleed over.
So we should also talk about like what exactly Undertale is and what exactly the routes are.
Undertale is the RPG where no one has to die. Is kind of the tagline for it, but it's sort of an RPG, mostly a bullet hell. An indie game released in September of 2015 by Toby Fox.
With really good humor.
Really good humor.
One of my favorites is the snail race, where you win the race by cheering for your snail. But if you cheer too much, he gets stressed out and catches fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you cheer too much, he gets overwhelmed. But if you don't cheer enough, he gets really sad because you didn't cheer for him. So you have to like find a really good balance. Also, Napstablook is one of my favorite characters in anything. That like.
He's a ghost who listens to music on not Napster.
Yeah.
And also he likes EDM.
Yeah.
Yeah, you meet Napstablook because... Oh, Napstablook also uses they pronouns, which is really cool. But you meet them because they're laying in the middle of the road. And one of the things about Undertale is because no one has to die. So it does a lot of really cool stuff with kind of like taking RPGs as a genre and then like conventions of RPGs and twisting them in ways you don't really expect. Like you can do there's sort of like three main routes in Undertale. There's what's called the genocide run, which is where you kill everything.
Where you specifically have to go into random encounters and like wipe out every random encounter enemy in an area.
Yes, and it's that you have done that because the music changes.
Yeah,
and suddenly...
And it also references Earthbound because when you get into what would have been a random battle, it says, but nobody came, which is what happens when an enemy in Earthbound like calls for support, but no one shows up.
Yeah. So it takes that sort of like grinding trope that you see in a lot of RPGs of like purposely entering encounters to gain levels and twists it because it's not a good thing to do in Undertale. Then there's the neutral route, which I think a lot of people end up getting their first time through, which is where you kill some people, but you don't kill others. Like, you spare certain enemies, you get certain events, but not all the good ones. And then there's I don't remember the official title. The true, or the pacifist, that's what it is. The pacifist run where you don't kill anyone, which is incredibly hard because I wanted to kill Undyne.
Why'd you want to kill Undyne?
Because I didn't understand that you were supposed to run from her fight, so I kept dying.
Oh, okay.
One of the things you can find in the game, like in the game's files, is how many times you've died to like specific enemies.
Yeah.
I think my first time through, Undyne killed me. I died like 50 times total, and Undyne was about 20 of those. Yeah. She really tested it. But, Undertale takes a lot of, like, typical RPG conventions and kind of twists them. Like, it does a lot of stuff with, you have LV, which you think stands for level, but at the end of the game, tells you it stands for love.
Which is level of violence.
Yes. Depending on if you've done the genocide or the pacifist. It's either level of violence or love, if you do the pacifist ending. Because you didn't gain love, but you gained love. Does that make sense? Is the quote that Sans, like, throws out.
Yeah.
Because you don't gain experience unless you kill enemies. But if you kill an enemy, you don't get the best ending. So you're stuck with pretty much 20 HP the whole game if you want to get the best ending. Which you totally do. Why wouldn't you want to be friends with Papyrus? Like...
This makes it sound really difficult, but Undertale's not actually a very hard game. You can easily do the game at level 1.
It's hard if you're bad.
It's actually easier to do a level 1 playthrough than it is to do a max level genocide run. And that's what I really like theoretically about the Genocide run is it represents the typical RPG mindset of like grind your way to max level and get the ultimate weapons and stuff like that by killing everything like indiscriminately. But that actually makes the boss fights harder because you have to fight like Undyne the Undying instead, who's much stronger, and then you have to fight Sans at the end, who is much, much stronger.
Sans is crazy hard.
And most importantly, Sans only has 1 health. And you do get a weapon that has like the maximum attack power in the game, but it doesn't matter because he dies in 1 hit. The thing is, you can only hit him under like a certain like scripted scenario. So your level being maxed out and your like damage output being incredibly high and you having the strongest weapon literally means nothing. And it's a deconstruction of RPGs by saying like you wasted your time by grinding to this point.
Yeah. And with that too, the real knife is the weapon that Casey's talking about, the best one in the game. And there's like a fun little bit of trivia about that. In the demo for the game, you can find the toy knife, which is the one weapon that you find in the ruins. And so there was a huge like rumor circulating throughout kind of like the Undertale community at that point that you could find a real knife in the game or in the demo, but you couldn't. It was only the toy knife. So Toby, I think, made the best weapon in the game, the real knife, kind of as a reference to all of that. But then also, it's like a lot of the other stuff is like a frying pan or ballerina shoes, and then it's like, oh, you get an actual fucking knife, like.
Yeah.
But also with the Genocide run, once you clear the ruins, everything dies in a hit. So you don't really gain a ton, either like by doing the Genocide route. Like, you know, enemies aren't like harder or more challenging, and the fights aren't more fun, at least with the random encounters, because they just die. Like, you get to the point where your attack is so strong that they just go down in 1 hit. Most of the time, they don't even get the chance to, like, enter the bullet hell, so you don't even get to see a lot of the really cool, fun stuff that Undertale has, with, like, the specialized attacks.
Which is, again, telling you that, like, grinding in RPGs is not the way that a game is meant to be played.
Yeah.
Or rather, like, a game that demands that you grind is, like, inherently flawed. Which is interesting because that's, like, the game most notorious for being, like, having grinding be necessary is Dragon Quest. And this is inspired by a game that is directly reminiscent of Dragon Quest.
You do have to grind quite a bit, too, in Earthbound.
Yeah, not nearly as much.
Yeah, but it's also, like, you can definitely see where Toby got that inspiration from, because he might not...
Yeah.
I don't know Toby's history. I don't know if he's played Dragon Quest. Maybe he has. Probably not.
He knows what Live a Live is, so
Okay.
I assume he knows what it is.
He lived in the basement of the Homestuck guy for a while.
Yeah, the Homestuck guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever that
remember
is.
his
Andrew
name.
Hussey.
Yeah.
Ugh. Also, fun fact, the other place that Megalovania showed up before before Undertale was in Homestuck.
Huh.
So it's kind of like Toby Fox's
Oh, that's right, because he did music for it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was part of the music team.
Yeah.
That's why he was living in the basement.
What's who's the guy that KK Slider is based on?
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
I
know exactly who you're talking about,
that,
though.
Like, there's a song that's like that guy's name song. Hold
Yeah,
on.
it's kind of the same thing with Toby, with Megalovania, and I think at this point he has to kind of continue it. He's probably backed himself into a corner, but I mean, Megalovania is a pretty good song, so it's fine. But it showed up in everything that he's done, at least up to this point, and everything that we kind of know about.
I'm looking up this person. I just want to point out that the Animal Crossing wiki is Nookopedia.
Nice.
Good. No, but Undertale is just, like, absolutely amazing. It was one of the first games that I played that had kind of that, like, mercy system in it, where you really didn't have to kill everything. And you can see now that a lot more games are starting to kind of incorporate the mercy sort of thing, where you don't have to kill enemies. Because, like, morality scales have been in games for a while. Like, Fable came out way before Undertale did. And that's kind of the most notorious, I think, aside from Undertale, at this point, to have the morality scale and everything. But...
KK is based on Kazumi Totaka.
Okay.
So the song I'm thinking of is Totaka's song.
Yeah. But I think that Undertale's definitely had a pretty big influence on like morality in games, or kind of like playing with that that sort of thing. There's just, I feel like there's so much to talk about with the game. I don't even know where to start.
Well, I think we should actually stop and move on to Lisa for the for the sake of time, and also the internet said an awful lot about Undertale as it is.
Yeah,
I don't think anywhere near as much has been said about Lisa. So I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Dan, because you actually bought me Lisa and introduced me to it.
Lisa is a really interesting game. It's very violent, very dirty, and very sad.
A whole bunch of rape allegory.
Yeah. So you play as a guy in a world that like no longer has any women, and you find and care for a child who is a young girl, and eventually she gets kidnapped, and so the game
and she is not Lisa.
And she's not Lisa, and the game is your quest to like go find her and get her back.
We should specify we're talking about Lisa the Painful RPG, not Lisa the First.
Yeah.
Or Lisa the Joyful.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of talking about Lisa the Joyful. So there's an old what do you call it, like freeware game called Lisa the First, which is more like a Yumaniki, or like Aoni, like that style of like RPG Maker kind of games.
Yeah.
And it's also very heavy-handed, like mature themes kind of thing, where you play as the girl Lisa, and like her dream sequences in which she deals with her like implied to be like sexually abusive father. And you have to like collect keys and like open doorways to like reveal more information about like what's going on. And it's presumed that Lisa is, I think, the sister of Brad, the character you play as in Lisa the Painful.
Yeah.
It's his sister or something similar to that, but they share that same father, because that father is also like in the opening sequence of Lisa the Painful, like being really abusive to Brad too. So a lot of the events that take place in Lisa the Painful are directly based on like what happens to Lisa at the end of Lisa the First. Also, I guess spoilers for Lisa.
All of them.
All three of them. I've actually only played Lisa the Painful, though. I looked up the rest of it on the wiki because I didn't realize there was a game known as Lisa the First.
Yeah.
Until I'd beaten Lisa the Painful and didn't know what the shit was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's... I'm not going to say it's a cool plot. It's a very interesting, very dark plot.
Yeah.
Made me pretty uncomfortable, to be honest. And I've got a pretty, like, thick skin about that kind of thing. But it's, yeah, like, not... If you played Earthbound and what you liked was the gameplay... you'll probably enjoy Lisa because it's a much, much more punishing version of that.
Yeah.
Especially if you play on the mode called difficult or called painful difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
You can only use save points one time, and I learned that the very hard way.
Yes, you did.
I was very upset with Lisa for a while, but I did ultimately finish it. It's a game where your party members can die permanently, and there are only so many of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Because they can die permanently.
It's also very easy to miss them.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to get, like, probably 15 to 20, but I think the game actually has, like, 30 or so characters.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a pretty decent game. The gameplay also takes from Earthbound. You have your party of up to 4 characters fighting in a first-person perspective, circa Dragon Quest. But your skills are, I don't want to say they're realistic because Nen shoots a laser beam. But like Brad fights by like doing Street Fighter inputs and stuff.
Yeah. You have like inputs and stuff for different characters.
Well, yeah.
Specifically for Brad. Yeah,
you have some characters who fight by doing like directional keys and then like WASD on top of that and stuff.
Yeah.
You have some that use MP like in a normal RPG, and then you have some that charge up a meter and expend that. The closest thing I can really think of off the top of my head is like the Tales games, spending TP. So you get a lot of like variety in the types of characters you can use. They're not really balanced, even the slightest, honestly.
Yeah.
They didn't really try to balance it, it seems like. Yeah, it's. I played it and definitely thought like this. The guy who made this played Earthbound. It doesn't take many or any of the themes, unless you want to say like the end of Earthbound, like the creepy shit with Gygus and stuff. Like there's a lot of that same style of imagery, like grotesque, like mutated humans and stuff like that. That's like a central connection between Lisa the Painful and Lisa the Joyful is like what caused that like kind of virus or whatever. I don't want to spoil the ending. I'll spoil the rest of that shit. But yeah, that's a decent game. If you like Earthbound, I'd say give it a shot. I didn't like Lisa that much, but I'm also like really picky about like difficult RPGs.
Yeah.
So you may like it. It's not an expensive game.
No, it's like $10.
Like 10, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like observing Lisa and Undertale side by side as the two like potential evolutionary paths that the Mother series could have taken.
Which are very, very different.
Yeah, and okay, I guess that's not quite what I mean because I don't think Mother ever would have become Lisa.
No, it never would have gotten that dark. But this is like, I mean, this is some of the ideas and some of the mechanics.
Yeah,
being taken in a different direction.
I guess a better way to put that would be like these are the two like radically polarized interpretations of Earthbound that I can see being made. Which is interesting. I like them coming out at similar times and being so polarized. I like the two like dramatic interpretations of the same game. And it also shows how like culturally and historically relevant Earthbound is. Although again, I'm really surprised that we haven't seen anything else like it really. Unless I'm missing something. I don't think there have been a lot of games based on Earthbound.
No, not that many others that I can think of.
No. I think for the most part it is really kind of Nintendo's like sleeper hit. Where a lot of people know about it, but not many people have sat down and like played it.
It's like probably slightly more popular than Kid Icarus.
Yeah. And that sort of thing. I know that it does have like a really, really, really dedicated fan base. And I think a lot of people have played stuff where I think we're going to see a little more resurgence in Earthbound just because of the popularity of, Undertale and also Lisa, which were both, kind of heavily inspired. But I also think that a lot of people have taken, especially when it comes to RPGs, have taken, like, parts of Earthbound and other games and didn't even realize it just because, like, some of the stuff with Earthbound has become, like, pretty standard.
A lot of the stuff that's standard about Earthbound is what was standard in Dragon Quest, though.
Yeah, but...
Like, I'm in a JRPG group, and I kind of just posed the question, like, what do you guys think of Earthbound? And somebody said it's the best Dragon Quest game. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually, like, pretty valid, to be honest. Like, that's obviously, like, tongue-in-cheek, but, like, that's not a bad description of that game.
Yeah, but also because of that, and it seems that a lot of people who are creating things now were influenced by Undertale, or by Earthbound, I think that it's something we're going to see more of now. Because I feel like Earthbound has had a much bigger influence on people kind of like my age. Or like
yeah, Toby Fox is, only like a year or two older than me?
Yeah.
So he's like in his early 20s?
He's like surprisingly young. But I feel like it was a game that a lot of people got into in high school because of the internet and because, like, the ROM is pretty easy to find, that sort of thing.
Well, now it's also available on digital distribution, which it wasn't for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly, which is why the ROM was...
What's interesting is when Earthbound came out, there were actually a lot of copies of it. I mean, like, relative to, other SNES games, but, like, it was pretty easy to buy, like, an in-box, like, mint-condition copy of Earthbound in, like, the bargain bin at, like, a JCPenney for a long time. And I guess they just, like, got sent to the landfill or something because it's extremely rare now.
Yeah.
Like, all SNES games in box are extremely rare because, like, cardboard boxes are definitely not the future. But even just, like, the cartridge on its own, I've seen go as high as, like, $150, $200 in, like, thrift stores and stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is such kind of like a cult hit. that it's not surprising. But because it is so much more accessible now and so many more people do get to play it, I think we're going to see a lot more stuff that's inspired by it.
I don't know, though, because at the same time, it's a game that I feel like anyone who appreciates Earthbound enough to want to make a game that's an homage to it understands that that's a very difficult torch to carry.
It's also one of the things where I can see just a lot of the themes in Earthbound being carried over. Like a lot of the stuff about like family and like being homesick, or even if it is just kind of like that modern fantasy where it takes place in kind of like 90s not America.
I can see
it's that nostalgia factor that it has just kind of built into it that I think is going to be a really big inspiration, maybe not directly but at least thematically for a lot of works. I
can see that in a lot of RPG Maker games. I think like, oh, this is going to be a really weird comparison, but there's a game called Kanye Quest 3030. Now hold on. In this game, you play as Kanye West on his Kanye Quest, teaming up with MF Doom, Tupac, and I can't remember who the other one is.
Yeah, they're all trying to do their Kanye best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could do this all day. But you go and you have to like go to the future and like fight the like anime task force and ultimately overthrow Lil B the bass god to return rap to its like whatever. But like the setting is like a little Earthbound-esque. It's urban. It takes place in the year 3030, but it takes place in like a city, not like fantasy world. And there are quite a few like RPG Maker games that do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that if not like gameplay wise and even like humor, just because you do see a lot of like Earthbound's humor in especially Undertale, kind of that like little bit off the wall stuff thrown in there that always just kind of like takes you a second to process, like did that person really say that kind of thing to me, that sort of thing. That might not be as direct just because that kind of stuff is a lot more common now, so you won't see that directly impacting. But yeah, I think that the nostalgia of like a simpler childhood, or like that very much that like small child going on a huge adventure in kind of like small town America is something that I know that I'm seeing a little bit more in some of the games I'm playing, but also like webcomics I read, that sort of thing.
Cucumber Quest comes to mind.
Cucumber Quest comes to mind also because GGDG did some of the art for Undertale.
Oh, yeah,
I heard about that.
Yes. She, in the demo of the game that Toby showed to a bunch of his friends at TCAF, in Alphys's lab, where, like, spoilers, in Alphys's lab above her bed, there's the posters of, like, the cute little girl, like, anime show she likes, that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, but in the demo that, like, Gigi got to play, Toby didn't have any art, and he just wrote, "Gigi, please draw me pictures, I will pay you money," like, where the posters are supposed to be. And that information can be found in the Undertale art book, which is a really, really good thing to look at if you're interested in how, like, indie games are made, if you like Undertale, if you like Toby Fox's sense of humor. It makes me feel better about myself because, like, Toby made this really, really awesome game. He can't draw for shit, though. Like,
or code.
Yeah. All of the concepts.
Wasn't it made in Game Maker Studio?
Yeah, it was made in Game Maker Studio. The
Badly.
reason it hasn't been ported to anything else is because Toby does not know how to write code, and Game Maker Studio will not let him port to, like, Wii U, which is why, like, Nintendo really wants Undertale for their systems.
Yeah.
But they would have to, like, hire somebody to make Undertale again. Because Toby's like, I can't do it.
He has, I think, like, 57 or something events checking every single frame.
Yeah, every time you walk into a room, there's, like, 100 checks it goes through. It's crazy.
For this very, very basic game.
Yeah, that's
also,
why, like,
I have very, like, entry-level knowledge of how coding works. That sounds horribly inefficient.
Oh, it
Yes.
is. It definitely
It's because
is.
he doesn't know what he's doing.
That sounds like a really long time to do not a whole lot of work.
It's also one of those things where, like, hearing all this kind of stuff, and then also like reading the Undertale art book, and like seeing Toby's concept art that he drew in MS Paint with a trackpad and then handed over to Temmie, who did the kind of the real magic in that situation. It really does, like, it gives me a lot of hope as a person who isn't necessarily the most artistically talented when it comes to like making things. But I mean, Undertale, I think one of the reasons it has gained so much popularity is because it does really have that grassroots home feeling. It's about friends and family and finding your own home, but it also
With
feels
monsters.
but it also feels very, very genuine because it was made by a team of like 2 people. But I do also love Cucumber Quest a lot, which is kind of how we got on this topic. But Cucumber Quest was also heavily inspired by specifically Mario RPGs, but it wouldn't also surprise me if Earthbound was another one of Gigi's inspirations. I love Cucumber Quest. I just sat down the other day and really thought about it, and I've been reading it for like 6 years now, pretty much the whole time it's been going on.
Yeah.
Isn't Gigi's favorite game Paper Mario?
It is.
Good. It should be everyone's favorite game.
And I think maybe the only person who was hurt more by Sticker Star than you was Gigi.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That messed me up for a while.
Just about every other month on Twitter, she'll post something like, "Man, remember when I thought Sticker Star was going to be good?"
Oh.
Or like, "Remember the times when I was excited for Sticker Star?" Like, it really, like, I think it hurt her more than anything else. But I absolutely love Cucumber Quest. I'm so excited that it's being published by, like, real people, and you can buy it in real stores.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, October 10th. I'm probably the biggest advocate for Cucumber Quest besides DG, so if you haven't read it already, please go read it. It's really good. It'll maybe take you like 3 or 4 hours. It's up to about 800 or so pages, but they're really easy to get through. The art's great. And if you like Undertale, you'll definitely like Cucumber Quest because the sense of humor is so good and that depth of emotion is there too. So, is anybody else want to give a shout out to something?
No, but I
I'm good.
I do really like the idea of like us, a podcast that regularly gets like 5 views. Like, yeah, go check out this popular webcomic.
Okay, you see that, but I've been telling Dan to read Cucumber Quest now for how long? A while.
A few weeks, at least.
A few
2 months, maybe?
Yeah, a couple of months.
Yeah.
I've been yelling.
I've read some of it.
Yeah, I've been yelling at people to read Cucumber Quest for I don't know how long, and none of them have ever listened to it. So maybe
Dan
one
never
of
does
us.
anything I say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I told you to play Advance Wars 3 years ago.
You did. You gave me a flash drive with Advance Wars on it.
Yep.
But no, maybe somebody will listen to us and actually go read Cucumber Quest. Maybe.
That'd be nice.
Maybe.
And maybe we can become characters in Cucumber Quest.
Maybe the 6 years I spent yelling at everybody I know who vaguely likes nice things to go read Cucumber Quest will pay off. Maybe one person will heed my advice. My 6 years worth of yelling to go read Cucumber Quest.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it for our actual topic, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, since Casey won't let me talk about Undertale anymore, I guess.
Yeah, sorry, my internet's getting turned on today, and you guys aren't going to stop me from playing Nier anymore. Okay. I guess that's all we've got for this week, so thank you for listening. I've been Casey Moore with Riva and Dan. You can catch us on Thursdays, uploading to the same YouTube place that you're finding this thingy. You can read our writing on respawnloungeofficial.wordpress.com. Writing goes up every Tuesday. That'll alternate, vaguely speaking, between Riva and myself writing, because Dan doesn't like to pull his own weight.
Oh, I added the videos.
Yeah, Dan, you push a button on the YouTube machine.
Yeah, you say YouTube upload, and it does everything for you. If you want to get in touch with us for any reason, you can email us at respawnloungeofficial@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, search for Respawn Lounge, it's the one with the couch. Follow us on Twitter, it's respawn_lounge.
It's the one with the couch.
Also the one with the same couch.
And all of these will be linked in the YouTube description.
And it's been a while since we've actually acknowledged this, but our music was done by my friend Parker, who on Twitter can be found as Tafka, TAFKAA _ I believe second underscore.
Yes, 2 underscores. And there's also a link to that.
and also his SoundCloud under the same name.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's it, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you.